In this video, I do an analysis of the accident involving Norfolk and Western number 475. So to give some background, Norfolk and Western 475 is a historic steam engine that the Strasburg Railroad uses for excursions. Last week was involved in a minor accident where it collided with a backhoe, damaging its smoke box. Fortunately, it was not hauling any passenger cars at the time and no one was injured. One of the passengers took a video of the accident, and I will leave a link to that video in the description. However, I'm not really sure of the copyright issues involving that video, so I'm not going to be including any clips from it in my video. Now, a couple of months ago, I was able to visit Strasburg, and I actually rode on an excursion that was pulled by number 475. And Strasburg Railroad is one of the oldest heritage railroads in the country, and their maintenance facilities are some of the best in the world. So the Strasburg Railroad is definitely a reputable operation. And this here is a Google Map image of the area where the accident took place. So this is called Lehman Place Junction, and it's in Paradise, Pennsylvania. And this is where the Strasburg Railroad interchanges with Amtrak's line from Philadelphia to Lancaster. So this track right here is Amtrak's track, and this track right here is the Strasburg Railroad's track. And what the Strasburg Rail trains would do is they would arrive from this direction here with their engines at the front of the train moving in a backward configuration. So basically the engines would be moving with their cab in front of their boiler. And what they do at Lehman Place Junction is they would switch the engine from one end of the train to the other of the train in order to return back down this direction to the Strasburg station. So Strasburg station is in this direction here. And what would happen is they would park the train on this piece of track here, and then they would detach the engine and reverse it past this switch here and onto this piece of side track. And then she would travel in a forward direction past the rest of the train and then past this switch here. They would then use this switch to reverse her back. They would use this switch here, which is actually obscured by trees, to reverse her back onto the main track and back up to where the other train is parked, and then they would attach her to the other end of the train. So she was now pointed forward in what would be the front of the train for its return trip to Strasburg. Now the switches used in this process, so the switch here and the switch over here, they're manual switches, so they're switches that actually need to be switched by hand by crew members who would dismount from the engines. So now what I noticed is this piece of side track here, and I believe that this is the offending track. And actually it looks like in this image, there's some maintenance vehicles stored here as well. And I remember there was a lot of construction equipment here even when I visited Strasburg. So that was a couple months ago. Now, this switch here isn't actually one of the switches that they have to manipulate when they switch the engine from one end of the train to the other end of the train. So that actually dispels one of the rumors that's going around that the crew members incorrectly aligned one of the switches, since they basically just wouldn't have manipulated the switch during the process. However, the crew must have somehow missed that the switch was set to the wrong direction. And I guess there's many possible ways the switch could have been set to the wrong direction. And as the engine was passing here, that they must not have noticed that this switch was switched. So I know as the train passes, what they usually do is they usually wave to all the passengers and interact with the passengers to keep them entertained while they're doing the switch to the other end. So maybe they were distracted by that, or maybe it's just due to the poor visibility from a steam engine. So the visibility from a steam engine is pretty poor, and they may not have even been able to see the switch. One other thing that could have possibly presented this accident is what's called a derailleur. So a derailleur is a device that they clamp onto the track, and it's used to derail any train that passes over it. And usually, if they have a piece of track that's obstructed by something like construction equipment, they would place a derailleur in front of the construction equipment to derail any train that accidentally goes onto that track. And I kind of wonder why someone didn't place a derailleur on this track. So they would basically place the derailleur somewhere like here, and they would have derailed the engine before it had a chance to hit the backhoe. It would also be interesting to know when in the day this happened, because that would help us to understand why and how the switch was flipped. But what do you think? Did I miss anything? Please let me know in the comments below, and if any additional information comes out, I'll make a follow-up video.